sur la famille.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure being here with you. So before I start and present myself, present the agenda, there's a question I would like to ask you because it's my first time to the Founder Summit with the family. Where are you all coming from? I mean, I think there are many people outside France. Would you mind sending in the chat your country? So I have an idea. Rouen, that's close. Lille, that's okay. Wow, then Germany, UK, Spain. So it's not only France. Barcelona. Wow, Denmark. Wow, India. Okay, so then it's good evening and good morning for some of you. Wow, I'm very impressed. Well, then it's a pleasure. I have another question for you before I start. This workshop is about sales techniques, but you know, we often say that selling, it's a mix of an art, the way you are. I mean, you are a salesperson or you are not a salesperson, and then techniques and the fact that you work and you do your own work. I would be very interested in knowing, I mean, what percentage you think it's art and what percentage you think it's tactics and work? 50-50, 80% tactics, okay. Art, 100% art. Okay, it seems that many of you are thinking 20% art and 80% tactics. Well, okay, I'm not the Gartner and I have never done really research on that, but I mean, I've been in sales for more or less 23, 25 years. Would you ask me? I would say 30% is who you are and art, and 70% is work. And why do I start by asking this question is really to make you feel at ease. You may be shy, you may be not really at ease when you need to speak on a stage, whatever. If you work, if you do your own work, you'll be a great salesperson. And really some of the best sellers I had in my team were super shy people who would listen a lot and work a lot. So I wanted to share that before starting the presentations. Now let's go. Up. I'm just putting the presenter mode and I'm gone. Okay. Okay. So this workshop is named Tips and Tricks for a Successful Sales Meeting. What I want to share with you is what I've learned during my sales experience. I had great training, I had great client meeting and also very bad client meeting, and I learned by failure, I learned by success, and I want to share what I learned. So first, who I am. I'm Christelle Lacalemer. I'm currently working for AWS in France. I'm a sales director. I have been in sales all my life. It was really what I wanted to do. I went to a business school and then I knew I wanted to be in sales. And I started really doing cold calling and managing very small accounts and then bigger accounts and then being a global account manager and then being a sales manager, a sales director, working on solution, working in France or Western Europe. I mean, I tried a little bit of everything. And today I'm just sharing my experience. And I have prepared an agenda in two parts for you. One is what I would suggest you, what I'm teaching my teams to do before the meeting. The homework I would suggest you do before you enter the room and you meet your clients. And then some tips also on how you should behave if you in a meeting that is not going the way you want and you want to keep the control and you may meet some tough situations. This session will be registered. So what we would do is put all your questions in the chat during the presentation, and then at the end I would stop the sharing, read all your questions and answer all your questions. This is okay for you. Okay, so let's go. So we said that 70% of the selling process is doing your homework. So what do I mean by doing the homework? And what I would suggest to my team to do before they would enter a meeting. So I'm going to start by the obvious. The obvious would be, it seems obvious, but really, to be honest, people rarely do it. When I'm going to a meeting with somebody in my team, I would always ask, have you asked who will be attending the meeting? And usually you are sending an invite to Mr. X and you believe you'll be meeting Mr. X. And then you enter the room and there are 10 people in the room. And you have prepared your meeting for Mr. X, and there's also 9 of his colleagues who don't even know who they are, what they do, I mean, what are their connections, their interests. So I would always say, first thing you do, like 2 days before the meeting, you would just send a note saying, okay, let me confirm the meeting. On our side, it would be myself and my colleague, Peter, whatever. Would you be kind, and the agenda would be that. Would you be kind enough to let me know who will be attending on your part? You'll be surprised, and you'll discover people for sure. Then obviously this, I mean, no need to say. Then you go on a social network, whatever, and you're looking into their post connection and all of that. This I'm sure you're doing. And then obviously, this is very rich data. You customize your message, and the more you can, so then during your presentation, you can relate to their post, their whatever connection you have in common or whatever. But the most important thing for me is then you start preparing your question. And I have 2 slides on questioning, and I'm 46 years old, 23 years in sales. I swear I still prepare my question in the way I'm going to present you. Once I know who will be attending, I sit down and I usually ask to myself, what do I want to learn from this meeting? And then I start writing down my question. And I come with a list usually of maybe 20 questions. First work I do, and this is why you need to write your question in advance, I rewrite them because naturally you would use closed question. That's nature. So if you don't write your question in advance, question 1 is open, question 2 is open, question 3 will be closed because this is the way we think. So when you prepare them, you open your question, make sure they all start by how, why, what, would, and that's work, really. I mean, you'll do the exercise and you'll see. And then usually what I do is I prioritize my question in 3 tiers. Tier 1 are the questions that I would whatever ask. Those questions I need an answer, okay? And then tier 2 are the questions I would like to ask if it's okay, I have the time. And tier 3 questions are the questions I know it's going to be tough. Maybe I won't have time, but if there's a chance, I would ask them, okay? So the dark side of this advice there's a dark side that you may think, oh, Christelle said you should prepare your question and then you should ask all your questions. Well, this is the meeting you're going to have with your client is not a police interrogation, obviously. So you need to keep agile and listen. The thing is, you're going to ask your question 1. You should not just get an answer and skip and go to question 2. You should stay on question 1, and you should always consider that the answer you got, the first answer the client will give you to your question is represent maybe 20% of the full answer. So you would ask, would you have a magic wand, or how would you solve this situation? And you would get the first answer. And then you have prepared what I call the relaunching question that are very, very tough to imagine. So you need to write them that are, what else? What would you add? Oh, that's interesting. And so you ask question 1, get an answer. First you wait, silence, you don't say anything. Usually the client would start adding something. Okay, and then you go, very interesting. And the client is going to add more, and you may ask, what else? And then you could consider you got 100% of the answer, and then you go to question 2. So that's a very fast way of explaining the questioning techniques, because in 45 minutes, I'll go through many techniques, but then at the end, I'll take the question if you want to deep dive. There's another advice I would like to give you on questioning. there's a big chance you don't have time to go to your tier 3 question. Those are the cherry on the cake question, the question you ask if you have time. Well, the best time to ask those questions is what I call the magic moment of the lift. There's always somebody in the room, somebody that is more friendly than the other people in the room that would walk you back to the lift. During that time, you have, if you are, a junior salesperson would think, okay, the meeting is done. I'm so happy. I'm relieved. Stress is over. Meeting is done. I rush out of that building and I'm going home. A very experienced salesperson would think, okay, now it's time for me to go for tier 3 question, and I'd better be very slow going to that lift. And I may even propose a coffee and make that time be very long, so then I can ask all my tier 3 questions. Usually that person that brings you to the lift is very friendly, would answer a lot of questions, and is not paying any more attention. So you in that time you'll get very, very, very interesting information usually. Then on questioning, sharing another advice would be, if it's a very important question, let's say a question on what is the process for the budget or signature of the contract, you may want to ask it to several people. Don't believe that you asked to one person, that person gave you an answer. That question is really key for you. And you don't know if that person, I'm not saying they would lie, but they may give you an information they think is true, and it may not be true. They may not really know. So if it's a very important question, those in the tier 1 part, they're asking them to several people. So I'm sharing, I'm always getting the question, would you share some, those open questions? So I have a slide on what I call the golden question that you could ask to every meeting. You can read them on the screen, so I may not go through them, but just, you see, as I wrote them, all of them are open questions, big question where you get a lot of answer. And then you go for your interesting and what else? Could you add something? And the relaunching questions. Okay, so you have prepared, who is coming, who is attending the meeting. You have prepared the questioning, and you're ready to go. Then there's something else I would ask to my sales team is, are they clear on what is how success look like? What is the vision of the success? So I'm always asking them to write, and I'm really, really tough on that. They need to write it, not just to tell me. They need to write it. I will consider this meeting to be a success if, and then I'm expecting like 3, 4, or 5 bullet points, not just I will consider this meeting to be a success if the client is okay to sign the deal. That's bullshit. You're really going in very detailed action of what you're expecting. What I want to get out of this meeting is, again, so why do I ask them to write it? Because then it's clear, it's detailed, and also because then you can share it. Because if you're going with a colleague to the meeting, you're 2 of you, and you stayed really vague on what success look like, and you stayed on the level like this meeting would be a success if the client is okay to sign the deal. Okay, and then you may have two different understanding of this sentence. One of you may think, okay, so then success will be that we go for a free POC. And the other person attending the meeting might think success is if we go for a signed contract, maybe including a POC, but then they are very engaged and they sign a contract. So you are not clear on what vision of what success is. What happened in that case is that after a few minutes in the meeting, the buyer will understand that you are not clear. And then you may lose control of the meeting because the buyer may play one against the other. and you cannot coordinate, you cannot really discuss. So it's, well, one of the advice I would ask is be very clear, share it, write it, and make sure everybody in the meeting knows it. And then I would also ask, usually, are you clear in your mind at what point you would go away and stop the negotiation, or walk away from that deal? Are you clear on really that level? Because if you are unclear, again, the buyer will know it. If you are very clear, everything in your body language, the way you speak, the way you are very assertive, I mean, all of that will really send a message to the buyer that there's no way going further and discussing more. You are clear. So I would advise you write it also. So you know who is in the meeting, you have prepared all the questions, we have prioritized them, they are open, you have the relaunching question, and you really visualize the success as people, very athletic people, they do yoga before a big race, and they would, see what success is, they would see them doing the exercise, that's the exact same thing. Then we discuss about who is attending and contacts. I'm always also challenging the team and asking them, have you done your homework on the contact? Are you very clear? So I'm going to share. I'm always asking them, can you show me an org chart of that company? And can you classify the contact, or have you insight on the contact? So I'm showing there a very, very, very easy way of classifying your contacts. That's not my favorite one. I will show you my favorite one just after. But that's very easy, and that's a good starter for a discussion with your colleague when you prepare. You could just have the org chart and then try to understand who approves, who makes the decision, who is going to be the user, who is the one doing the business case and evaluating the solution. And then you can just add, are they neutral? Are they supporter? Are they enemies? Very easy. And you may think it's too easy. Well, you know what? The value of doing that is that you don't lie to yourself. You just in front of an org chart, and then if you're really honest with yourself, you will see that you are missing people. There are people you don't know, and you heard that they are very important. There are people you are spending too much time with them. I mean, it's a clear view of what you should do, and it's very obvious, especially if you do the exercise, the two of you. But then I find it a little bit, let's say, plain. And the way I love to map the contact is the way that is taught by CEB, that is now a Gartner company. They have written that book that is a must-read book, and if you haven't read it, I mean, I would really, really encourage you to read that book. It's The Challenger Sales. So, I mean, it has been going on for maybe the last 10 years or 8 years. But really, when I went through that training, it really changed the way I'm thinking of the contacts, and it was really a aha moment for me. And I'm just going to share with you a teaser from that training to convince you to go through to read it and maybe attend a training, and there may be session on the internet. I'm going to show you how they classify the contacts. That's my best methodology. So here's what CEB is saying. CEB, they have classified the buyer, the buyers in 6 profiles that you see on the screen. And I'm going to go through those profiles with you. And then at the end, the question I'm going to ask you is which 3 profiles will, if you had the chance to pick 3 people to attend your next meeting, which profile would you choose so that your deal is moving forward? Okay, so you have 6 buyers and you can pick 3. Which one would you pick to maximize your chance to win the deal? Okay. So I'm going through the profile. So first, CEB is defining a profile that is called the go-getter. So the go-getter is somebody that is really playing for the company, is playing really for the interest of the company, that is really a doer, an action-oriented person, works a lot. They can handle ambiguity pretty well, but they have no clear vision. They're not visionary people. They're not very good at telling stories, and they are very rational people. Then you have what they call the teacher. The teacher is somebody that the main driver of the teacher is excitement, what's new, what's on the market. That person has would call is a technical evangelist within the company. People are listening to their opinion. They advise others. They're very persuasive. They are very good talker on stage, and but they are very, very bad for driving projects. And they, you know, their driver is excitement, so then they could switch and go to another subject. That's it, I would say. So it's the I love this idea people. Then they define the skeptic. So the skeptic is somebody that is challenging you very much, always asking the painful question, always asking what you don't want to be asked on your product, you know, where your product is not that good, your pricing, and going really in detail. They are preparing others for changing. They hate ambiguity. They don't like people that are overselling. They are very slow. And they are very, very, very focused on the plan, not on the vision. And then you have the guide and the friends. To be honest, it was never very clear what's the difference for me. To me, it's one profile. So I would summarize those two profiles in one. Those people always say yes when you ask a meeting. Would you call them for lunch, because you need an information? They would always answer, always be nice, always provide you the information. They would organize a meeting for you so that you meet another person. And you know, they know the organization and they're very helpful. But they rarely buy. And it could also be that the information they're sharing with you, they're also sharing it with other vendors. And they are not always action-oriented. And then you have the climber. So the climber is the person that is super ambitious, that is only driven by the what's in it for me. They know perfectly how to get what they want, but then people know that they are acting only on their own interest. And also those are the people that may let you down if there's a risk for them. You know, just stop discussing with you, or just letting you down if you're not going in their own, I mean, the direction that is in their own interest. So now maybe Salome, because I don't see the chat anymore. I mean, could you please choose three of those profiles for your ideal meeting, and maybe Salome can let me know who you picked. Salome? Ah.
Hi, Crystal. Yeah, I'm here.
Hi.
Instead.
Yeah.
So let me see. So people are going with the enemy, I'm seeing. Some other, Ludovic is going with go-getter, teacher, and skeptic. That gives a good balance for a strong case, a good vision, and execution. Jorge, skeptic. So I think overall, people are going for go-getters, teachers, and skeptic, that bunch.
You guys are great. Or you read the Challenger book, I don't know, but you guys are very smart. This is what CEB is saying. CEB is classifying those profiles, saying that the left ones are what they call the mobilizer, the one that would really push forward your deal. And the right one are what they call the talker. So what you see, and really by experience, junior salespeople, they would spend a lot of time, way too much time, with the guide and the friend. Because why? Because they never say no, they never push you out of your comfort zone, they are always very nice. it's not, I mean, it's not difficult to get a meeting with them. So you're super happy because you get a meeting, but then they are not pushing forward your deal. The skeptic is the person who usually salespeople like less because they are painful. They are slow, they always ask a nasty question, and you don't like them, but they are really building a business case. And once it's built, I mean, the other would just go for it. Well, that's first thing. Second thing I would like to share is that you may have a primary personality or profile, but then things are a little bit more complex. And by experience, you could have like a secondary profile. You could be a go-getter and still being a friend in your secondary. So that's, but it helps you a lot. And really something I would encourage you to do is when you are working on that org chart, is really try to see if you found the skeptic, because the skeptic is not somebody, usually they are not people very high in the organization, because they are not people that are really looking for leader position. They are doers. And very often they don't have a big title, and very often, you know, they are in the team of a leader, but you don't always know who they are. So really looking for your skeptic, your teacher, and your go-getter, and really challenging yourself. And that's why doing the exercise, the two of you, is great. Challenging yourself with the question, am I spending too much time with guide and friends? Am I really, leveraging the mobilizer or not? And if you I could share my experience, I would say that a junior salesperson spends at least 50% of its time with guide and friends, because that's the comfort zone. Also, one last thing I would like to share is I tend to disagree with the CEB and the climber, because I have done amazing deal with climbers. The only thing I would say is you just need to keep in mind that those people could let you down anytime. But as it is written, they know how to get what they want. So if you are exactly in the direction they want to take, that, you know, serve their own interests, then they could really push forward your deal. But you just need to know that you cannot only rely on them, because they could let you down. Okay? So that was exactly what I just said. Then if we keep on preparing the meeting, and that's last slide on preparing the meeting, let's say you already went for 1 or 2 meetings, and now you have some information on the account. Question you should really discuss with your team is who really decides. And that's a question, that's one of the questions you should ask, in your questioning, especially going to the lift with the friends. You know, it's there you could ask, but I would say you could ask it once, but once is not enough. It's a super important question. Ask it even twice, 3 times, 4 times, 10 times if you need, to different people. And also ask it at different stages of your sales cycle. Why? You start your discussion and you decide that with the client that you will go for a POC. And that POC may cost $1,000. Okay. But then you keep on discussing, and they are adding 1 country, they are adding some features, they are adding a support 24/7. And the POC now costs $1,500. It could very well be that 1,000 your contact Mr. X could sign, but then $1,500 it could be Mrs. Y that need to sign, because they have a clear budget cut. So I mean, keep on asking this question every time you change a penny of your in your quote. And then obviously, then you question you should ask, and again, you are in your org chart, do I have access to the person who decides, obviously. And decide means different things. You want to know who decides, you want to know who is paying for the project, which is another question, and who owns the project, which is another question also. And then the thing is, when you're asking to somebody, are you the one deciding? The thing is, by nature, people would say yes. I mean, they would have a tendency, you know, to be very proud of themselves and say yes. So you cannot take that yes as an answer. So I would encourage you to use that kind of question. Apart from you, who gets involved in the decision process? Often in other company, it takes 10 signatures to get an approval. What about your company? Or to win this project, who do I need to convince apart from you? So you are sure that you don't discover on the last day that that person is just one signature out of 10. And another very important question, which is the opposite one, is who has a veto power? Okay, they don't sign, but they could block the project. And we have a tendency to forget to ask this question, which is in fact very powerful. And then there are people that we don't spend enough time with. It's the assistants. The assistants, they are a golden source because very often the assistants are the one entering the order form in SAP or whatever other system. And in SAP, it's very clear. You enter, it goes to signature 1, signature 2, signature 3. The process is written. I mean, it's very clear in SAP. And the assistant, they would always know that. So if you have a good relationship with them, I mean, it's a good source for that kind of question. And then another advice on you know who really decides is really if you don't know the answer, do not make an assumption. That's so common that I would ask to herself, but then are you really clear on who is going to sign? And I get an answer like, yeah, it's a Mrs. ABC. She signed the contract last year. But then that's an assumption because every year, a budget assignment may change, the rule may have changed, SAP may have been, the rule in SAP may have been changed. This is an assumption. You should just ask again the question, even if you believe you have the answer. Those are super important questions. Don't assume, ask. So that was a little bit rushing. What I would ask the team, a big summary of the subject I would ask my team to prepare before we go to a meeting, before we enter a meeting. Then you are super lucky, you got the meeting, you're prepared, and you're entering to that meeting. So I'm going to touch some subjects. First slide would be how would you handle some difficult situation, but that are pretty common. So I'm going fast and I would answer your question. If we had usually, I deliver this class in a 2-hour or 3-hour session, and then we play role plays so we could implement. So maybe one day I'll come and meet you all and we'll play role play, but I'm going just to summarize, okay? So situation 1, you are presenting and you say something you should never have said. I give you an example. You are presenting and let's say you are in a company, I mean, you know the company pretty well, and you know that there's a history, a legacy, and there was a project that really went very, very, I mean, the project was a big failure, big failure. They lost money, they delivered nothing. It was a waste of time. And you were just saying something like, well, now you know what, we'll do everything it takes to make sure that we don't, with our project, we don't encounter a failure as you did with that project. And suddenly you realize that in the room, you have the person that was the dad of the project, really the person who launched the project and did the fail. And then you want to disappear. You would like to go back in time 2 minutes back to erase this stupid sentence you did, but you said it. So you're there, you did something stupid, you said something stupid, and then you have option. option one, usually when I'm asking what would you do, I would get the answer, you know what, let's ignore, and you move on and you deliver your presentation. Could be, but then I'm not sure this is very powerful doing that, because you have offended somebody, and there's a point, if that person is in the decision, I mean, it may hurt one at a certain point. And then also you have created a lot of tension in the room, because I guess everybody is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And you need to handle this tension if you want to have their attention and keep on delivering your presentation. So what I would do, it's just experience, so try it. And if I would definitely laugh, but really laugh, because when you laugh, you're getting out the pressure. First, you are gaining time, and then you are releasing pressure. And also you're sending a message to the room that everybody should just release pressure. So you laugh, and then I would really advise that, obviously you stay confident, but I would advise you go even further. I mean, there's no way, you should not excuse yourself, whatever, because then you're losing the power in that meeting. I would not do that. I would go further and maybe make a joke. So in that case, I think, stop, laugh, go to that person and say, gosh, did I just say that big project was a failure, and you are the guy who did the project? I think I should not have said that. Do you think? And make whatever joke comes to your mind, like say, well, next time I should say something even worse. I could say, your company is a failure. Okay, let's go. Let's move on. And then, the subject is over, and you can move on. Okay. Then situation number 2, if I'm rushing too fast, you'll tell me and ask question after. Situation number 2, you have a client that is super aggressive. Let's give you an example. You're presenting, and you have somebody in the room that interrupts you once, saying, yeah, okay, that's bullshit. Do you have a reference? And you just ignore, and you keep on presenting. And then you hear again on slide 3, yeah, okay, I'm sure you have no reference. And maybe that person does it 2-3 times, or asks for price, or just being aggressive and interrupting you. So usually when I'm asking to the class, what would you do, people would tell me, well, either I ignore that person, or I'm just turning to that person and asking and shutting him down, saying, please stop, and we'll discuss this later. I would not advise I would advise none of those solutions, because I think if you don't address, if you ignore, that person will keep on interrupting you. There's no way he or she would stop, I believe. And if you're really shutting him down, it could be that either the room gets aggressive because you are not listening, or that person really gets super, super aggressive. What I would do, and I tried it many times, and for me at least it works very well, again, is smile, because your body language is very important. You need to send the image that you are not an enemy. This is not war. You are really there to help. So you stop, you go to that person, smile, and you acknowledge, and you give that person attention, because that person needs attention. So you would go and say, hey, I'm hearing that you have a big concern on the reference. If I understood well, your question is, do we have any reference? And then you would answer what you can, even if it's partly answer to that person. Well, you know what I would like to tell you is that we have a reference in Germany, but not in France yet. You are right. This is why we are doing some co-development with you, and we are in a whatever. And that's it, you answer. And even better, you answer to another person. So you acknowledge, repeat the question, and you go to another person. So you stop eye contact, and you give the answer to another person. Subject is closed, you move on. What's going to happen, really, I tried it many times, is that if that person is asking again a question, the room is going to there will be some regulation in the room, because people would consider you are fair. You gave him attention. You answer fairly and nicely, and now they want to move on, and they would say, okay, now Peter, whatever, please stop. You take that question after, let him go and give the presentation. Okay, so you'll try it. Situation 3, you have a client that is not sincere, he's very insincere, and you know he's lying. So people would have a tendency to say, you know what, I would go and say, I know this is not true, I have an evidence, and I would prove to the client that is insincere. Personally, I would not do that, because I think when you are going against somebody's ego, you don't get the best part of that person. And I really think it would be a win-win situation to let that person understand that you know they are lying, but then let them keep their face and escape the situation in a very gentle way. So what I would advise, and again I have used it a lot, is to use what we call the false naive technique or the funnel technique. So I'm going to give you an example, because I had a training on that, and I remember very well the role play we had to play. I was given a script, and I was leading a plant. I was managing a plant, and we had a production peak. We needed to produce a lot, and we had to work for the next 4 weekends. And I had a team of 5 workers. 4 of them had done the last 3 weekends, working over, doing extra hours, and there was always that 5th worker that refused to work and pretending that his son was playing hockey, and he had a very important games. It was the final, and there was no way he could work. And the team would come to you and say, now either you fix it or nobody will work next weekend. And you had to enter. And I remember, so I'll give you an example. You're facing such a situation. You could go and say, okay, now I know this is bullshit. Your son, they are not finals every weekend, and the games are in the city, so you don't need your full weekend. I don't think I mean, the person may say, okay, but then may turn out to be sick the next weekend, and that person won't come. So what they call the false naive is a technique that would say, that's very nice. You're very much into sport with your son. That's amazing. I love sport also. I know nothing about hockey. Wow, it seems to be a sport where there are many competition, and I know nothing, but wow, how many finals there are in that sport. It's every weekend. Wow. And then there's so much preparation that you need the entire weekend to go to see a game. Wow. And I'm surprised. And then your wife, she doesn't care about your son. She never goes and attend the game, and it's always you. And you start asking those questions where, if you have a smart person in front of you, that person will think, wow, she looks stupid, but she may not be that stupid, and it could be that she knows. So now, if she's proposing an escape way, I would just take it. And then you would say, you know what, maybe what you could do, I know family is super important. When you know your colleague is also your family, it's your work family. Maybe as you're a very family person, this weekend you could come and join us, and Okay, then I'm watching the time. Situation number 3, there's a very, very uncomfortable situation. Example, you are doing your pitch, and you see people in the room. You have maybe 6 clients in the room. They are fighting one another, attacking one another. There's so much tension in the room that you understand there's some political games and something, but and you see that tension go, and you want to understand. So what I would say when I am asking to the team, what would you do? Very often I get the answer where I would say, oh, God, you guys are very tense. What's going on? If you say that, you may get an answer. How do you know we are tense? We are not tense. No, that's okay. So what I would advise there is not saying, guys, you are tense. Is saying, talking about yourself. Nobody could ever say that what you're feeling, you're not feeling. You're the only one to know. So I would advise there to stop and be very honest and open and say, you know what, I'm stopping because I'm feeling a lot of tension. I'm feeling uncomfortable because of that tension. Not saying that there's a true tension in the room, but I'm feeling very tense. Can we just stop and discuss what's going on there, and have the discussion? I mean, don't ignore it and just have the discussion. Okay, I keep on going to change it topics. One of the best advice I ever had in my career was this one: zip it, Christelle. And very often, you know what, when I'm meeting, I'm thinking, zip it, Christelle. It's the 30-second golden rule. What I mean by that, oh, sorry, I went back. What I mean by that is powerful people, they would take time and space. They would never rush. They would never speak very fast. They would never, if you think of somebody that you think is very powerful, you could take a politician, a scientist. Let's take, you know what, take something that there's no politics in there. Very easy example, Queen Elizabeth in England. If you picture Queen Elizabeth, if she needs to take time to answer a question, she would just take her time. She would keep silence for a while, and she would not rush herself. So silence is really a tool that is bringing back, you know, the power where it should be, that you are not losing power in a meeting or not being too aggressive. It's a very, I mean, it conveys the message of power. And then also it allows you to take control back and gain time. So then I will give you an example. So I would advise that when you get a very aggressive question or a very aggressive remark, that you would force yourself not to answer right away, even if you have the answer. And staying quiet 30 seconds, you won't, first time you never manage. I think even 5 or 10 seconds, you'll find it very long. But then when you be a master in silence, you could wait for 30 seconds. Super useful. I'm going to share with you the time I understood that rule. I was quite junior. I was attending a meeting with a very senior salesperson. She was leaving the company, and she was doing the handover for the account, and I would be the new account manager. But I was like maybe 28 years old. She was in her 40s, and she knew a lot. And we went to that meeting. It was, I remember very well, with Crédit Lyonnais, a French bank. And we had a very, very aggressive buyer, and I was trying to present a new offering, and it was only 10 slides. I was not going to speak for 1 hour, and he would interrupt me every 2 seconds. Yeah, but give me the price. I don't care about your bullshit. Give me the price, that's it. Once, twice, and I was just saying, yeah, but you know what, let me present. And but I was really losing my temper. And she jumped in the meeting as she was, you know, shadowing myself, and she did it very well. She just stopped and say, Charles, that was the name of the guy, I remember. So if I understand well, what you want is to know the price. Am I right? And the answer, yeah, I keep on asking. And then she stayed silent for 30 seconds. And she had the chance, she had glasses. So she took off her glass, she cleaned the glasses, she put back the glasses. And I'm like, wow, gosh, what is she doing? I mean, not answering. It's so long. 30 seconds. Really, I can tell you, then you take back control, you take the power back. It was amazing. And then she after 30 seconds, she said, okay, Charles, I understood. That's a very fair question. We will present in detail the pricing in slide 10. So it will be in 10 minutes. Christelle, go back. And the guy didn't ask anything again. And then I understood that rule. Okay, rushing. I'm always getting the question, Christelle, should I take notes? So that's, I mean, I'll go very fast. If you want my opinion, taking notes is not an option. It's not an option. First, you're showing respect to the client. But then mostly why I would say you should take notes is because you hear only what you want to hear. And especially, you know what, salespeople, they have a tendency to be super optimistic, and sometimes they don't want to hear the bad news or the, you know, the words like but, nevertheless, those negative words. So what I do, and again, I'm 46 years old, I write down everything that is said. But I'm in the script, I'm writing every word, everything. And it helps for the debrief. I mean, when you get out of the meeting, I'm sharing with you an experience again where I understood that this is not an option. Went to a meeting, it was in a French bank, and I had with me my technical expert. A huge deal. I mean, I really needed that deal to close my quarter. That was very important for me. Attending the meeting, and then we had to rush. We could not debrief the guy and myself because we had to attend a meeting in the office. And I went back to the office by subway, took the car, so we could not discuss. We arrived to the office, and the boss came to us saying, okay, guys, so are you going to sign that deal in the quarter? That's a major deal for me. What's your opinion? And the two of us answer, and I say, I don't think so. And he says, yes, definitely. And the boss can turn to us saying, I mean, did you go to the same meeting? This is amazing. I need more information. There you go back to your notes. And you really reading with no emotion and reading somebody else what was said with all those, but word, nevertheless, I'm not sure, those things that, and you can really debrief with no emotion. So to me, it's not an option. Then I'm moving to I have a few slides left, moving to concessions. So I'm getting very often questions on concessions. So you need to do your negotiation, and you need to give some concession to your client. Something I would say may be obvious, but usually then the startups come to me saying, oh gosh, you are so right. I'm thinking of a bad negotiation I did exactly the opposite of what you said. So even if it's obvious, let's go back to the basics. First, if you concede something, you should concede very slowly, and you should show how much it hurts. How many times I have seen in my career young salespeople after 2 minutes giving like 10%. And then what message are you sending to the buyer? That, I mean, he could ask and get, you should be slow, ask for 24 hours, think over it, come back saying, okay, we manage. It should be painful for the seller. It should be long and painful. If not, they'll never stop. And one other rule, if you concede something, ask for something else. Okay, I'm giving you 2% more, but then I need you to be a public reference for me. And this 2%, it goes with the public reference. Why is that? First, you are gaining some advantage, but also the more you ask, the more it's painful to the buyer. So there's a point that that person will stop negotiating, because you're saying, okay, you want 1% more? I need this part of the contract, of the legal terms, to be out. I cannot bear any penalties. And then the buyer needs to go and discuss with the legal team. And then, so he may think, okay, 1%, and then I need to have 10 meetings with the legal, forget it. One rule that is not obvious at the end, what I see when I see negotiation is, if you keep on negotiating, every time you concede less. There's no way you would give 3% on the first round and then 5 more on the second round. If you concede 5 at the first round, then it cannot be more than 4, 3, 2, or 1%. If not, you are sending the message that, yeah, keep on going, it's going to be more and more. It must be less and less, and always with a concession, okay? Then I write, they're asking why. There's a point, if there's too much negotiation, you could stop and just say, why do you need this concession? I mean, did we miss something in the value proposition? Can we go back to this? You could do. Obviously, before you enter your meeting, you are very clear on what are your concession variables. It's not all over price. You may also discuss quantity, discussing giving them the old version, not the new, or the new or not the old, giving or not giving training, pushing back the delivery date if they're asking too much discount, saying, okay, there's another client that pays the full price, so it will be delivered before you. Is this okay? Negotiating on support, on penalty clauses, on payment condition, whatever, you need to be clear before you enter the room, what are your variables. And then again, always remember, better no deal than a bad deal. And for that, you really need to know where you would stop the negotiation. You need to be clear where is your stop discussing point, so that the buyer will know. And you know what? The buyer, they love it. It's like kids. The kids, they would play and play with the parents until they find the limit, and then they feel like security, where the buyer, he gets out thinking, you know what, I pushed them to the limit. It was the limit, I could feel it, I did a great job, they are secure, they are happy. You even create, I would say, you would create some uncomfort for a buyer if you are not clear where to stop, because they feel that maybe they didn't do a great work. Okay, so I see the time, so I'll go in 1 minute for the last 2 slides. Just that's the second best advice I ever had after the ZP Christelle. Was Christelle, stop saying but and replace it by and. So then again, when we do a 2-hour workshop, we practice it with a case, and you feel the power of and. The idea is that every time you say but, you just leverage the reptilian brain, the prehistoric brain of the people, the one that, prepare you for fight. And when you use and, the reptilian brain does not go on. So you'll find a lot of literature on that on the internet. I would really advise you look, you deep dive on that. It's a super powerful tool. And then last slide. Last slide is again, there's a video. I'll share the slide, so you could click on the video, and it's a video of Simon Sinek. That was a big aha moment for me. It's a very, the message is very clear. He says people buy what you believe, not what you do. And he's using the example of Apple, saying that it's not that they are selling phone, they are selling, their belief. And I'm thinking that's super powerful for startups, because you guys and girls, you have created your company because you wanted to change something. You wanted to move the line. You have a vision. And you should really, my advice, you should start all your presentation by that why concept, linking to the emotional brain of your buyer, not the logical brain. Here is who we are. We have set up the company, and we have set up the company because we wanted to change that in the world. This is our mission. This is what we want to do. And then you present the product, not the opposite. It's very powerful also, but I let you watch the video. So to conclude, well, after the meeting, you think you are over? Well, not. I would say that what you need to do after the meeting is debrief and redo the entire homework that I presented in part 1, because now we have more information. There will be a second meeting, and you need to prepare your question, understand where are your contacts. Now, what is your next vision for success? I mean, you redo the entire, look at my slide and you redo all the homework, and you're ready for meeting number 2 then. So that's it. We have, if you have time to stay online for Q&A, I could go for Q&A. So I'm stopping the sharing, so now I could see the question.